Hi everyone, I'll just give a couple of minutes in case there are any people watching us live. So we'll give them a couple more minutes to join, and then we'll get going with the topic. Okay, it's a couple minutes past 6, so I'll get going with this video. If you do join halfway through and you missed the beginning of it, this post will be saved on the group for you to access and access whenever you can, and to read through it and listen to some information, and hopefully it's going to be of value to yourself. Okay, so without further ado, today's topic, which I'll be talking about, is stretching daily and the benefits of flexibility. As you saw in the post that was posted on our Facebook group, you'll be able to see a short summary of what we're going through, but I'll run through this again. So the topics we'll run through will include the types of stretching and their purpose, stretching and improved exercise performance, stretching and reduced risk of injury, and we'll talk about improving blood flow and increased nutrient supply to muscles. We'll go into a little bit more detail in each of those topics, and then as I come to an end, I will then give a basic summary of kind of what I've talked about, just so you can, a couple of take-home messages for you. Okay, so I'll just get started and kind of introduce the topic. So firstly, this video is not only going to provide some insight into the mechanics and physiology behind muscular stretching, which is also going to provide some up-to-date findings in the difference between kind of solely stretching prior to performances and stretching daily for a prolonged period of time. Okay, so without further ado, what are the different types of stretching? So there's three different types of kind of bold topics of stretching, and these are static stretching, dynamic stretching, and the final one is proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, otherwise known as PNF stretching, which is obviously what I'll be calling it for the purpose of this video. So what is static stretching? So I am almost 100% certain that each and every one of you have performed some form of static stretching in your life, in your sports career, just in day-to-day activities. So static stretching is a type of stretching exercise in which elongation of the muscle occurs with application of a low force and long duration, lasting up to about 30 seconds. Static stretching has a relaxation and elongation effect on the muscles. It allows improved range of motion across the muscle itself and the joint it is located along. Additionally, static stretching benefits the body by decreasing muscular tendinous stiffness, so the point where the muscle and the tendon of the muscle kind of join, so it's junction. So it reduces the muscular tendinous stiffness and also reduces the risk of acute muscle injuries. Static stretching is a slow, controlled movement with emphasis on postural awareness and body alignment, and it is suitable for all individuals and all patient types as well. So a little bit about dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching involves the performance of a controlled movement through the available range of movement that joint may have. So this involves progressively increasing the range of movement through successive movements until the end of range is reached in a repetitive and progressive manner. Dynamic stretching involves moving parts of your body and gradually increasing the range of motion and speed of the movement. So as you can already tell from those explanations, static stretching tends to be a little bit more kind of static. So you're a lot less movement required, and you're putting the kind of the muscle through its kind of maximum stretch. Again, a kind of low intensity for a prolonged period of time. With the dynamic stretching, this is looking to get the muscles warm up through lots of movement and kind of replicating movements that your activity that you're about to do, that you're warming up for, you'd be doing in those. So a little bit more. So how does dynamic stretching and static stretching differ from each other? Dynamic stretching can be functional and mimic the movement or the activity or sport to be performed by the individual. So a little example, a swimmer may circle their arms before getting into the water, performing upper body swimming movements, or a cricket player may perform dynamic shoulder movements, which replicate those of kind of throwing or bowling. So as you can see, by warming up your muscles in the movement that they're going to do, they're going to it's going to be prepared well for the activity that they're going to be performing. Dynamic stretching helps restore dynamic function and neuromuscular control through repeating and practicing the movements, which allow improvements in enhancing motor control of that specific muscle. Dynamic stretching is also more recently considered to be preferable to static stretching in preparation for physical activity. This will be discussed further later on in the video. Dynamic stretching also elevates core temperature, which subsequently increases nerve conduction velocity, muscle compliance, and accelerating energy production. These all aid in improving muscle performances during activity. Okay, so a little bit to talk about now on PNF stretching. This form of stretching is also understood as pre-contraction stretching. This is because this form of stretching involves a contraction of the muscle being stretched, or its antagonist before stretching, which is antagonist being the opposite muscle. So a good example is your biceps and your triceps, or another example is your quadriceps and your hamstrings. So there are multiple PNF stretching techniques that exist. However, commonly, all of them rely on stretching the muscle to its limit. In doing so, this triggers an inverse stretch reflex, which is a protective reflex that calms and relaxes the muscle to prevent any injury occurring. Regardless of the technique of pre-contraction stretching, PNF stretching can be used on most muscles in the body. PNF stretching also can be modified, so you can do them alone or you can do them with a partner. Okay, so those are the three main kind of bodies of stretching that we've gone through. There are a couple more, and obviously welcome to do your own little research and dive into those a little bit more. But those generally are the three that you'd use more commonly in your day-to-day stuff, as explained above. So I'm going to now talk on to the mechanisms of stretching. Okay, so the initial changes that are produced by stretch training involve mechanical adaptations that often are then followed by neural adaptations. These are changes which occur with strength training. However, there is contrast with the sequence of changes that are observed during strength training. So when a muscle is stretched, some of its fibers lengthen, but other fibers may remain at rest. The more fibers that are stretched, the greater the length developed by the stretch muscle. Makes sense? The more muscle fibers, for example, in strength training, the more muscle fibers that are recruited during a movement, the stronger the force output will be. Goes the same with stretching. The more fibers that are stretched during a stretch exercise, the more benefit that you'll have following that as well. Okay, so when a muscle stretch is held for a prolonged period of time, you're essentially holding the muscle in a stretched position. The muscle then becomes accustomed to this new length that it is resting at, and it reduces its signaling, allowing increased muscle length over time. So gradually, you can train your stretch receptors that are in the muscles to allow greater lengthening of the muscles over time. This in turn also increases your overall flexibility, as the body now allows your muscle to stretch further prior to contracting. So as you can see, the benefits of daily stretching. So if this is the level that you're at the moment, I say this quite often with my patients. If they're watching, you'll definitely know what I'm about to do. So in terms of stiffness, you're at this level, okay? What I would say is you do a little bit of your static stretching during the day. So you've done it in the morning, first thing as you wake up. already a couple hours after that limit now, your flexibility, and now you're starting to get stiffer and stiffer, building up to that start point. So the key thing is to do it as regularly as you can. So bringing that stiffness down, okay? So as it starts to increase again towards kind of your baseline level, to say, you want to be topping it off and doing another set of stretching exercises, and vice versa. Again, it's going to creep up towards, and then you do it again in the evening, and it's slowly just going to progress. And that overall kind of baseline of flexibility will then start to reduce as well, improve, sorry. So another reason for holding a stretch for a prolonged period of time is to allow the lengthening reaction to occur, thus helping the stretch muscles to relax. Obviously, it is easier to stretch or lengthen a muscle when it is not trying to contract. So how does stretching lead into improved kind of muscular performance or exercise performance? So in this section, I will discuss when the aforementioned types of stretching are most useful and when they may not be too suited. Okay, so over the years, it has been traditional practice to perform static exercises before the main exercise session or main sports event in order to improve muscle performance and minimize risk of injury. So I can call upon countless number of times. Even myself, when I was younger, playing lots of sports and teams, just before I'm about to perform my activity, the coach would say, right, let's go down and touch your toes. Right, let's bring your foot up behind your leg and let's stretch out the quadricep muscles. Those are static stretches. Ideally, what we should have been doing is more dynamic type stretches, getting the body moving, replicating those movements that we're going to be doing on the field that we're about to go and compete in. So, like I said, it has been traditional practice to perform these static exercises before the main exercise session in order to improve muscle performance and minimize risk of injury. However, more recently, research and reviews have found that stretching immediately prior to exercise does not prevent injury, and additionally can lead to detrimental effects on muscle performance. Therefore, performing static stretching before your main exercise session or main sports event can lead to a decrease in the performance in the subsequent events. So now you may be thinking that I've completely contraindicated myself with the last statement. However, we will discuss the important role that regular static stretching has, as well as when more dynamic type stretching is best suited. Okay, so firstly, to understand how static stretching can lead to a decline in muscle performance, we have to understand the immediate and short-term effects of static stretching and the effect of regular stretching. Okay, or stretching regularly is what I mean by that. So the immediate or short-term effects of static stretching involve me going into a fair amount of anatomical information. Gets my mind in a boggle. I don't want to do that to you guys. Feel free to research into your own time, like I said. But basically, in summary, to summarize the short-term effects of static stretching on the muscle, it is seen that collectively all of these short-term changes that occur with static stretching lead to a decrease in force production and performance of the muscle, which inevitably can lead to an increase in the risk of injury. Okay, so I'll leave you with that, and I'll now dive into a little bit more detail. Okay, however, the interesting point I'm trying to make is the benefits of regular static stretching. So the key word there being regular static stretching. By regular static stretching, I'm talking about static stretching 4 to 5 days per week. Regular static stretching exercise has shown that it improves muscle force and performance in the activities. Its underlying mechanism is that regular daily stretching induces muscle hypertrophy, which is an increase in the size of the muscle. It has shown that if stretching a muscle group for 30 to 60 seconds per day over several months, it may result in muscle hypertrophy and therefore strength gains. So obviously, alone doing the stretches, you're going to have a benefit, but coupled with strengthening exercises, like I'm sure a lot of you are doing, your regular gym environments, gym exercise routines, coupling these with daily stretching, you're going to have some great benefits, not only in terms of the way you're feeling, but the gains that you're going to feel in the gym, performing movements that you never thought you could once perform. Okay, so before moving on, I would also like to highlight where static stretching does have its benefit. Research has shown that static stretching after activity has an immense value, especially if you're an individual trying to gain greater flexibility or treat an injury or improve your overall mobility. When you stretch after activity, the muscles are fatigued and well vascularized, so think of lots of healthy, nutritious blood flow. The fatigue is what allows you to take advantage of the lengthening reaction of the muscle fibers, as they are obviously now less able to contract because they can't fight that strong against the stretch. So several articles suggest that stretching gently after activity can decrease post-workout soreness, otherwise known as delayed onset of muscle soreness, which is commonly known as DOMS, or shortened to DOMS. Okay, so there you can see how we've highlighted the difference between static and dynamic stretching. I've also given you a bit of insight into where each one may be best suited for you. So if you're an active individual, still taking part in your five-a-side football or taking part in 2 or 3 sessions of swimming per week, that's when you look to maybe do your more dynamic stretching to build up into your exercise, get the heart rate going, get everything nice and warm. Okay, if you're looking to improve your mobility long term, and even if you aren't looking to improve your mobility long term, I would say that getting into the habit, the daily habit, treating your body well, static stretching on a daily basis would do you the world of good. And just creating those good habits, like I've previously talked about in other Facebook lives, just creating those bad habits, creating those good habits that you can get into, and will give you a world of benefit moving forward. So finally, we're going to look at how stretching can reduce injury. So I know I already mentioned that performing static stretching just before your workout can increase your risk of injury. Yes, this is now me talking on daily stretching, regular stretching, and how this may reduce your injury. Okay, so to achieve true long-term improvements in flexibility, regular daily static stretching is recommended. Flexibility exercises are just as important as your cardio, your strength, and your power training. Regular stretching helps increase the range of movement of your joints, improve your blood circulation and your posture, as well as alleviating muscular tension throughout the body. In addition to this, increased flexibility enhances individuals' athletic performance and reduces the risk of injury. Furthermore, regular stretching is also seen to boost nutrition supply to muscles. So when you stretch, you're improving your blood flow in the body and in turn circulating a lot more nutrients throughout the body, nutrients that your bodies need to recover from exercise, and to recover and get back to the optimal performance level. Stretching also improves your mental state as it reduces stress and relaxes tension throughout the body. It's a great way to give yourself a mental break, to recharge and calm the mind, especially during all the external stresses that an individual may be exposed to nowadays. A lack of stretching can limit your range of motion over time and make your muscles become a lot tighter and a lot more restricted, and therefore they become shortened in their rest position, and this will then cause some inflexibility. This consequently could cause your muscles to weaken, increase the risk for strains, joint pain, and muscle damage. As we age, unfortunately, it's the horrible truth. As we age, our joints can lose up to 50% of their range of motion. And this only therefore highlights the importance of stretching for all individuals, and not just it's important for athletes training for an event or hoping to prevent tears, sprains or strains. Rather we all need to be consistent with stretching during each stage of our lives. Okay, so I've gone through all that kind of information there, kind of just blurted out all this video, but here are the few key points which I would like you to take home. So to summarize, to increase joint range of motion, all types of stretching are effective. However, PNF type stretching may be more effective for immediate gains. The evidence shows that performing static stretching exercises before sports activities may lead to decreased performance and increased risk of injury. While on the other hand, performing regular daily stretching exercises, this can lead to improved muscle force production and performance in all activities. So the key word there is daily and regular static stretching. Okay. Prior to a workout in the gym, a run or a sporting event, it is important to perform dynamic type stretching, which replicate those activities you're about to perform. Post-exercise static stretching or PNF stretching is recommended for reducing muscle injuries and increasing joint range of movement. Okay. So like I said in the beginning of this video, when I finish with this, it should save and it'll be there for all to view as many times as you like to view it. I hope you've been able to gain some valuable information from this, and if you do have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Just pop a comment on this video and I myself or one of the other members of our team will get back to you. Have a good Monday evening. Take care. Bye.